This is the Ellis Martin Report. Chris Taylor is the chairman and founder of Kodiak Copper Corporation. He's a structural and economic geologist with more than 20 years of industry and research experience with both mid-tier producer and junior exploration companies. He's the founder, CEO, and president of Great Bear Resources, which made a district-scale gold discovery in Canada and was taken over by Kinross Gold for $1.8 billion. He's also a former geologist with Imperial Metals, exploring for copper porphyries in North America. Kodiak Copper trades on the TSX Venture Exchange as KDK.V, and in the U.S. on the OTC as KDK The company's most advanced asset is the 100% owned MPD copper-gold porphyry project in the prolific Quesnel Trough in southern British Columbia, Canada, where Kodiak made a discovery of high-grade mineralization in 2020 at the Gate Zone, which has since been expanded to considerable size. MPD has all the hallmarks of a district-scale multi-centered porphyry system with several targets with similar signatures to the Gate Zone yet to be tested, and multiple new targets being generated across the large 147-kilometer project. 2022 saw the discovery of a parallel porphyry trend at the nearby Prime Zone, adding further upside and size potential to the Gate Zone, and the discovery of the Beyer Zone, a new high-grade gold-silver zone. With a lot more potential to be unlocked at MPD, Kodiak is looking forward to continuing its discipline and systematic approach to exploration to generate value for shareholders through discovery success. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to speak with Chris today on the program. Chris, welcome back to the program. It's great to visit with you again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, Ellis, it's been a while since we spoke. I can't remember exactly when, but it's some time now.
A few years ago when the stock of Great Bear Resources was well under $1.
Oh, that's wild.
It was a while back. I have to tell you, I became a shareholder of Kodiak simply because of what you've done with Great Bear Resources. And I met Claudia at a conference about a year and a half ago. I didn't even need to hear anything more. I just didn't want to be left out of what you were potentially going to be doing here with Kodiak. That was an easy close, and she wasn't even trying. I have to congratulate you first off on the award that you just won, the Bill Dennis Award, the PDAC 2023 Bill Dennis Award recipient for the discovery of the Dixie Gold Deposit when others believed all the multi-million ounce deposits in Ontario's Red Lake Camp had been found. And yet you found one and you took it all the way to the finish line. Can we expect to see that sort of good fortune in British Columbia with the MPD Copper Gold Porphyry Project?
God, what a loaded question there, Ellis. First off, it wasn't me that found the Dixie discovery. It was our team at Great Bear. So it's really a team effort. I said that right during the Bill Dennis Award, but I suppose somebody has to stand up there and actually accept the award on behalf of the team. So, in my case of the former CEO, that ended up being myself. And then the second part of your question, it was interesting with the Kodiak property when we put that into the company, because I remember getting guided around by the prospector and the owner at the time showing me what the rocks were. And it was pretty obvious, having worked in a number of porphyry copper gold systems previously, back when I was a project geologist many years ago, drilled a lot of these things. And it was obvious that there was potential to make a discovery. And lo and behold, even in our first drill season, like just over 2 years ago, we made a new high-grade copper gold discovery at the time. So can I guarantee the same outcome as Great Bear? Well, obviously not. But it's not like I put the gold in the ground at the Dixie project or put the copper in the ground at MPD. But what I can say is that there's a very good team at Kodiak as well, like there was at Great Bear. And if the metal is in the ground, we will find it. And so far, that process has been going well.
I definitely appreciate what you're saying. It is a team effort for sure, but you've got to have a really good spidey sense that's built with your years as a geologist and really sniffing out what might be good. You're almost like a prospector, but really not. You understand how prospectors talk and how excited they get when they find something.
Yeah, of course. It's actually relatively simple. Find mineralization. As a geologist, you always have a bit of a prospector, a little bit of that blood in you. And it's certainly exciting when you find new mineralization in an area. There's a big difference between mineralization and an economic ore body. That's what you can never guarantee. You can understand the science, have a good nose for the ground, geology, and find the mineralization. Whether it becomes a big economic ore body is another thing.
Well, certainly jurisdiction and terrain, weather, all that factor into it. Would you have been excited about this project or something like this with this type of mineralization had it not been in the exact area in BC that it is in the Quesnel Zone?
Yeah, the Quesnel Trough, I worked at a mine called Mount Poly when I was a project geologist, Imperial Metals, put it into production in 2005, or I should say back into production And we found some high grade copper gold zones there as well, which is actually the momentum that got the project rolling again, was having the high grade material to blend in there. So I know those rocks, and the MPD project, Kodiak, it's in the same belt of rocks, and it's known to host like dozens of these porphyry copper gold systems along hundreds of kilometers of strike length. It's really a significant known host of copper mineralization. So the area that the MPD project is in, though, I mean, it fits the criteria that we had at Great Bear, whereas we wanted to be working in an area we knew if we made a major discovery, it could be developed because of access and infrastructure and other things. And kind of the same formula, like Great Bear and MPD were both located like right off the side of a highway, power lines going through the area, and in a mining jurisdiction where there's active mines in the region. And really, those are the factors that you look for. If you're going to try to find something up on one of the remote islands in the Canadian Arctic or some tropical jungle somewhere, your threshold for development is very much higher. When you find something in a mining district like MPD is, your threshold for getting a project production is so much lower, and it's just a more efficient process for shareholders.
Let's talk about the threshold for a transaction. You had one with Great Bear and Kinross. Is it slower with copper typically than it is with gold?
Partly the timing depends on the motivation of the potential acquiring party. People kind of lose sight of that a lot of the time. And if you've got a company like Kinross, which was really looking forward to getting involved in the North American jurisdiction, but Canada in particular, in a big way, that can be an incentive to getting a deal done. So with copper, sometimes the projects are big and they require quite a bit of money to get rolling, but it really comes down to the motivation of parties. And in our area of BC, there are significant copper mines. So one of those is operated by Teck Resources, our largest shareholder. And the reason is that they're quite familiar with the geology, and they know that if you make a discovery in that area, again, your ability to get it through to production is going to be higher than in that jurisdiction that they're not familiar with.
I hope you don't mind this question or this line of conversation, but I invested not as a trader, because I'm not a trader when I invest in companies. I invested as a long-term player looking for the transaction, which I think will eventually come, and you don't have to comment on that, whether it's a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. Put your money into a company. You put your money into the team, actually, which is why I invested.
Yeah.
And then you just wait. Now, in this particular area, is a transaction dependent on the market, let's say? Because we saw some definite moves in the Great Bear market. We saw a lot of shareholder attention, and that really drove you to a great position where a transaction just made sense. Are the dynamics with Kodiak Copper quite a bit different in that sense compared to potentially with Great Bear?
Well, there's some similarity. Like what it reminds me of right now, the stage that Kodiak's at is similar to the stage that Great Bear was at when it had found the first of its new discoveries. So in the Great Bear case, we found what was called the Hinge Zone, and that was a 2018 discovery, and it vaulted the market cap of the company kind of into the range where Kodiak Copper is right now. But it wasn't until we found the next discovery, the LP Fault Zone, that we really started generating like much higher share prices and a lot of market momentum. So it's great when you've made the initial discovery on a project, and that's how I feel Kodiak is at right now. But there's very few of the targets that Kodiak have even been tested yet. And that reminds me of where we're at in Great Bear around like 2018 or so. And then again, the major discovery came the following year. So with Kodiak this year, the objective is to go in and test a number of these new targets, which is honestly the work that I enjoy the most in geology, is that exploration work and actually testing out the ideas that you have. In the case of Kodiak, though, we know there's good copper results at a number of additional porphyry centers down on the southern part of the property. So really want to get the drill there, start testing those things out, see how big they are, how far down they go, how they might connect together as well, which is a typical case of some of these systems. And I think that's going to be much more exciting than a definition drilling on a discovery you made a couple of years ago. That's great to do. You need to do it. You need to see it's big. You need to see it's consistent. You need to see all these other factors. But really what we're here to do is discover more. And that's what Kodiak's working towards.
Hypothetically, if we saw those kinds of discoveries today, those sorts of results, would it move the market? What kind of market do you think we're in right now?
Well, for copper in particular, it's a very, very, very good market. And I usually don't use so many varies in one statement, but the bottom line is I was at the BMO Gold Conference just about a few weeks ago now, and it was amazing listening to guys like Friedman talking about the fact that copper is really going to be the driving motivation for a lot of these big mining companies. And there was a slide in his presentation that I was paying attention to. And just to electrify the current vehicle fleet, we would need to mine as much copper in the next 20 years as we've mined in all of human history beforehand. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. I haven't looked into it, but I'm repeating a factoid. And if that's the case. I mean, there just isn't enough copper to go around. So that makes me very bullish on the price and bullish on probably the prospect that larger companies will like to own and control copper mineralized systems and prospective ground, because they know that there's going to be a real bottleneck on supply. So that's what gets me excited. So I think we're in a really good market for copper, and the timing in that sense couldn't be better.
I remember probably back in 2018, if not 2017, we were in Toronto, you and I, and the majors were literally physically in some capacity, whether it was their geologist or some of the executives of the company, are literally hanging around with you. I do remember that. You do have relationships with the majors right now, and I would say that that's still the case with Kodiak, and perhaps even more so. So are you feeling that excitement from these people? I mean, are they really sniffing around right now and trying to do as many M&As as they can?
It's odd. I would say that's pretty accurate, Ellis. There's been more interest for a company and a project at this stage than you would typically see. So Kodiak has gone onto the radar screens of more people than I would have expected, given the stage of discovery. It's an early stage story at this point in time, but we've had a positive proof of concept with the Gate Zone discovery. It showed that there is high grade copper on the project, and that really got a lot of people's attention. And like I was just saying, the market backdrop to deliver that kind of discovery to the market couldn't be better.
Well, I'm definitely excited by it. Now, your plans for 2023 include up to 25,000 meters of drilling in multiple target areas. That is quite aggressive, I would say, for one season.
Yeah, but we do have a long work season. It's possible at MPD because of the infrastructure access to work all year, but we do like to take a few months off in the winter and actually think about what we've hit over the course of the year and study the core, do geochemistry, do like 3D inversions on some of the geophysics and everything. So it's a lot of drilling to do in 1 year, but at the same time, the drilling is warranted. We have a lot of targets that we need to hit, and there's a lot of results we need to analyze. So I would say it's a very realistic target as well.
I say there's great opportunity in a market that has pulled back quite a bit, and I'm talking about the equities in general. The price of copper is really strong right now at $4.17. It's even more of an opportunity now than when I came in about a year and a half ago. I think I bought it around $1 or so.
It's interesting. We put that Mount Poly mine I mentioned. I think the copper price was around 50 cents a pound when we put that thing into production. So you got to think like the multiples of that value right now. And we have the ability here to take advantage of being able to raise money, conduct a big exploration program, and really deliver a result to the market against a good backdrop. And it doesn't often cooperate that way. The market doesn't often deliver you sort of excited motivation right at the moment where you have the ability to go out and satisfy it with potentially making more discoveries. So I think it is a good lineup in that sense. And as long as Mother Nature is cooperative this year, which is the thing we always have our fingers crossed for, I think it's a good time to be doing the kind of copper exploration that Kodiak is doing.
And it's potentially a good time to take a look at Kodiak Copper in general, audience. That's entirely up to you. We don't make any recommendations. We're much too biased to do so. Chris Taylor, Chairman, Kodiak Copper, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you again. Thank you so much for joining me today in the program.
Yeah, great to see you again, Ellis. Let's not make it like another 4-year gap here.
Cheers. I've been speaking with Chris Taylor, Chairman of Kodiak Copper Corp, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange as KDK.V, and in the U.S. on the OTC as KDK-CF. Find the company on their website, KodiakCopperCorp.com. I'm Ellis Martin.
Would you like to be one of the first to see who we are following? Subscribe to our audio newsletter. It's free. EllisMartinReport.com.